Why is it that whenever we see an image of Jesus hanging on the cross, he always has washboard abs? He has a six-pack. Because of all the CrossFit he does. No? Mike doesn't like that one? Yeah, it's all right. How about one more? One morning in Sunday school, a Sunday school teacher is talking to her 5th and 6th graders. And she's talking to them about the Ten Commandments, specifically the one that says, honor your father and mother. And she says, is there a commandment that says how we're supposed to treat our siblings? One little boy, the oldest in his family, raises his hand and says, thou shalt not kill. Mike likes that one? All right. Well, now that I got approval from Mike, we can begin. If you got to know me, one of the things I really like is I'm a huge nerd about history. I really like reading specifically about ancient Greeks, ancient Romans, that kind of thing. When ancient capital cities are excavated, rarely do you see statues of whatever god or king ruled there. You see them in, for example, rarely do you see statues of Caesar in Rome. There you see Caesar up there on the screen, and there's some ruins in Rome. Rarely do you see statues of Caesar in Rome. You see statues of Caesar in the far-off colonies, because those statues are a reminder of who's in charge. Because usually that's through some military conquest. The Romans came through, conquered the land, and says, this is our land now, so we're in charge of you guys. We are the same way. We are living, breathing statues on earth as image bearers of who's in charge, and that's obviously God. And that's perfectly evidenced in John chapter 15, 1 through 8. If you want to turn there or turn in your phones, it's up there on the screen. John chapter 15, 1 through 8 says, I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of not mine, and that does not produce fruit. And he prunes the branches that do bear fruit, so they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch that cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile and to be burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask of anything you want, and it will be granted. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father. The problem with us, though, is that unlike statues, we can turn around and say no. And two things happen when that decision is made. One, we no longer properly reflect Him, and we become the idols that we otherwise worship. Going back to ancient Rome, if Rome gave up on a colony for whatever reason and no longer maintained the statues of Caesar there, they deteriorate and crumble. They no longer represent the glory and shine of the Roman Empire. Because of that, they are cut off from the source. They become rubble, a shadow of their former selves. However, we can no longer be image neutral. While we can never lose that image of God in us, no matter how long we try, because He created us. He created us in His image. But we will reflect something. Humans are created in this really unique space. We were created beneath God, but above creation. Not only that, but we were created in God's image. Because of this, we have this ability, this privilege, nothing else does. We have the ability of reflecting the one that put us into existence. The best way I heard this described is we are a mirror that it's slanted at 45 degrees. We stand in the middle place. God's glory, love, likeness shine down on us, and like any good slanted mirror does, we reflect that onto the world. And it works both ways. As image bearers, we take something raw and make something beautiful. For example, musicians take notes and sheet music and they make beautiful music. Carpenters take wood and they make something useful, functional, and practical. Gardeners take seeds and dirt and they grow good, fulfilling food. Artists take paint and a blank canvas and they make a wonderful work of art. Our job is to take the world, beauty from chaos, and give it back to God. That is worship. Worship is taking a gift that God gave you and giving it back to Him. Worship is what we just did, is taking the tithes and offerings. Something goes in one side and comes out the other. But the problem is that mirror got shattered. That mirror got shattered when the original sin was committed, when Adam and Eve took from the forbidden tree. The thing is, that mirror still gives a reflection, but it's distorted. Before sin entered, our lives were in shalom, peace. We were human. We knew God, we were with Him. Everything orbited around Him and everything He is. Goodness, beauty, peace, rhythm, grace, and love. When that glass was shattered, a void was created. God was no longer at the center of everything. He got replaced. The entire order of things got flipped on its head. We elevated creation above the Creator. The things that were created for us to dominate now dominate us. The things that we used to create and cultivate now enslave us. And it's still happening today. Everything is vying for our attention. Money, power, fame, sexuality, security, entertainment. These are all idols. An idol can be anything. Idols are something that promises what only God can fulfill. It calls on our good desires, love, purpose, intimacy, and turns them into a God thing. One of my favorite comedians, Jim Gaffigan, maybe you've heard some of his stuff, maybe you haven't. He does a bit on McDonald's. And hang with me. He says that we all have this McDonald's denial. Like, oh, I would never go eat at McDonald's. They sell 6 billion burgers a day. There's only 300 million people in this country. I'm bad at math, but somebody's lying. We don't go in innocent. We're walking into a giant red and yellow building with a giant M over it. Is this a library? We'll get some fries while I'm here. I'm at it. But we know the reality going in. We've all seen the research. We've all seen the science and documentaries. We all know the commercials are all doctored up and manicured. But what I want to see is a commercial of people 5 minutes after they eat in McDonald's. I don't feel so good. But even if you are one of those rare people that don't actually set foot in McDonald's, I'm sorry, but you have your own McDonald's. I will admit, sports is my McDonald's. Sports is one of those things that I use to escape from real life. Just just for a minute. Like, half of the time my team wins and I'm happy. At other times I'm off on the side, mommy grumbling, kicking the dirt. And Fred will attest to this. For weeks after IU beat Michigan State, he wouldn't talk to me for weeks. It's okay, Fred. I understand. Maybe your McDonald's is telling yourself that your Starbucks Frappuccino is not a milkshake. Maybe it's that you can name all the Kardashians. But we all have our own. It may take a while for me to digest my double cheeseburger, but that tattoo on your lower back, that's forever. It's all McDonald's. It's all served up a little different. By the way, if you cared who Prince William married or about the royal baby, that's Burger King. That's not even our gossip. Now, when you go to a Christian college like I did, you quickly become familiar with something called the bubble. And because I went to Olivet Nazarene, it was known as the Olivet bubble. And the bubble is formed when you're surrounded by Christians and everything that is Christian, and you become more or less ignorant of everything that isn't, because you're not coming in contact with that. There was one day I did leave the Olivet bubble, and it was more evident than I care to admit. It was for a youth ministry class. For the class, we had a project where we to go into the natural environment of teenagers and observe them in their natural habitat, so to speak. So we thought, what better place than go to a Friday night football game? Well, by halftime, never have I longed for the Olivet bubble in my life. I would leave the Olivet bubble again when I went to work for an organization called Christian Ministry in National Parks. And that's an organization out of Colorado. They get us jobs in the parks, and they send us to 28 national, state, and national parks, and we bring the gospel to the parks. There was one year I worked at Custer State Park in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and it's a completely different world than Olivet. When I started talking about the gospel and Christ, people got a little excited that there was this idea of grace and mercy and everything that Jesus offers. But they got a little upset when they heard that they'd have to give up everything to be with him. They're like, how dare he? What right does he have for me to give up everything? They thought Jesus had no right to ask that. I always thought this was weird because everything asks for everything. Jesus is not the only one that asks for everything. But Jesus is different. Jesus is the only one who gave up everything first, before you or I do. He pursued, he died, he gave up everything, then he calls us. His love is so awesome that it compels us to follow him. It's the only appropriate response. Psalm 115 says, "Why do the nations say, 'Where is their God?' Our God is in heaven. He does whatever he pleases. He does whatever pleases him. But their idols are silver and gold and made by human hands. They have mouths but cannot speak, eyes but cannot see. They have ears but cannot hear, noses but cannot smell. They have hands but cannot feel, feet but cannot walk, nor can they utter a sound with their throats. Those who make them will be like them, and so will all who trust in him." We can cry out to idols all we want, but they can't save us. The paradox of an idol is we give it its power. Alcohol can only be a god if you allow it to. Money can only be a god if you worship to it. Jesus is King and Lord regardless of what we do. It's funny, we laugh at the idolatry in the Old Testament like we would never do something as foolish. Like, who would worship a golden calf? Who does that? But nothing has changed except the clothes we wear. When's the last time alcohol really satisfied you? When's the last time money forgave you, truly and fully loved you? It can't, because we corrupted it with our hands. This happens with good things too. It can happen with our relationships and other things too. I see this every day with my teens and teens I see in the high school. People are so tempted to orbit their lives around whoever they're dating at that particular time. It's like a switch flips, and we try to find satisfaction, our worth, our value from that person. God is against idols because when things are in their proper place, we can enjoy them at their best. When we make that other person idol, eventually we're going to suck that life out of that person. Only one person is able to say being God, and that's, well, God. Idols are fickle. Be it a person, alcohol, sex, money, power, they're all cruel gods, and they're all McDonald's. One of the biggest traits of an idol is that we are blind to it. That's the allure of an idol. We don't know we have one until it gets attacked or gets taken away, and we, for whatever reason, we feel a need to defend it. But God doesn't need defending. He never defended himself. He gave up himself, in the process, defeated evil. Charles Spurgeon, I believe, said it best. The gospel is like a caged lion. It does not need to be defended. It just needs to be let out of its cage. The mystery of Jesus is revealed in Revelation 5. He is called the Lion of Judah, but what John sees is a lamb slaughtered. Jesus is a powerful, victorious, roaring lion who achieved that victory by the act of the lamb who was slain. If you have an idol that you need to let go of, this is what the altar is for. That's why I'm here, Pastor Sarah's here, Pastor Mike is here, and if Pastor Ray was here, he would talk to you, I'm sure of it. We all have idols. Some of us do. And we all need to let go of them. So like I said, this is what the altar is for. That's why the staff is here. We're here to talk to you, to help you let go of those. If you join me in prayer as we finish. Lord, we want to remain in you, but it's hard sometimes that everything asks for our attention. And it's easy to get distracted. Help us remain in you and help us be like those living creatures and elders who circle the throne in Revelation 5 and in a loud voice say, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise. To him who sits on the throne, to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory and power forever and ever." And all God's people said, Amen.